climate change is connected to immigration patterns, I seek unanimous consent to submit to the record this article from the New Yorker on how climate change is fueling the U.S. border crisis, particularly in Guatemala. The question is no longer whether someone will leave, but when.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Hagel, who's on the President's task force, this council? Who are the members?
I have no idea.
You don't know?
The President's task force on...
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about it. I just was curious who's on it.
I don't know. I said it'd be in my statement. I don't know.
Do you know when the executive order was issued to form the task force?
No.
That's because there wasn't one.
I don't know. All I know...
No executive order issued to form a task force. There's no task force that exists, and therefore there are no members on the task force.
Well, there's certainly a lot of conversation evidently going on in the White House about it.
Let me ask this, Mr. Secretary.
Picked up by the press reporting it.
Yeah, do you agree with your colleague, Senator Kerry, Secretary Kerry, in his testimony just a few hours ago, when he read his testimony, he said it's a council of doubters and deniers. Is that accurate?
Secretary Kerry just handed me a draft of the President's executive order setting up this task force. Maybe we should...
No, I got the draft in front of me. I've seen that. It's a draft.
Yeah.
Never been done, never been executed, no one's been appointed. So I'm just curious how the Secretary...
Well, it shouldn't be, and I hope it's not.
Well, that's not my question. My question is, do you agree with what Secretary Kerry said when you said it's a council of doubters and deniers?
I don't know who the council is. I've already told you that. I don't know who it is.
That's the point. We had a 3-hour hearing talking
I think
about
you should
this
address your
council
question to Secretary Kerry.
Yet to be formed. Secretary Hagel, are emissions up or down for the United States over the last 15 years?
They're down.
Down?
Yes.
Earlier, both of you talked about market forces. It's amazing to me that emissions are down in spite of the fact that we had the first Green New Deal, the loan guarantee program in the Obama administration, that gave millions and millions and millions of dollars to all kinds of companies, and almost every single one of them went bankrupt. And yet still, somehow, the market figured out a way to drive emissions down.
Well, I think President Obama President Obama may have had something to do with that, too. And a Congress recognizing what the issues are and the seriousness of the issue.
I'll tell you about market forces. Market forces said Solyndra got a bunch of our taxpayers' money. Folks from the 4th District of Ohio went bankrupt. That was market forces. Beacon Power got a bunch of taxpayer money. Some of it from the citizens of the 4th District of Ohio went bankrupt. Abound Solar went bankrupt. Fisker Auto went bankrupt after receiving tons of taxpayer money. That's market forces. And in spite of those companies, which were the end-all, be-all, save-all, emissions went down because the market did it. Something you both talked about.
Not just the market, Congressman. The fact is we put in place the strongest CAFE
administration.
I was talking to Secretary Kerry. Is the Green New Deal, Secretary Hagel, is the Green New Deal bipartisan?
I don't know. I told you before in my comments in responding to the Green New Deal question, I don't know about it other than what I've read in the paper. I don't know who's co-sponsoring it. I don't know the details of it.
Well, both of you have talked a lot, and I agree with this. Both of you have talked about depoliticizing this issue. Both of you have talked about working in a bipartisan fashion. Green New Deal's got 91 Democrat co-sponsors, 13 Democrat senators, not one Republican.
Well, take that up with the Congresswoman, not me.
No, I'm just asking your thoughts. Would you define that as bipartisan?
I'm not here to defend that bill or testify about it. You talk to your congressman.
You've made that clear several times. How about the statement? I want to go back to, do you agree with what Secretary Kerry said, that the council is made up of doubters and deniers?
I said I don't know who's on the council.
So is it an accurate statement? If we don't know who's on the council, in fact, we not only don't know who's on the council, there's been no council formed. How can you conclude it's a council of deniers and doubters?
You take that up with Secretary Kerry.
Secretary Kerry?
Will the ranking member yield?
I made it clear in the beginning that
Will the ranking member yield?
I'm asking the
I made it clear in the beginning that the prelude to the actual language of the draft executive order, which was obviously leaked by somebody who was deeply concerned about it, said very clearly that it claims to authoritatively link climate change, It is.
I'm not asking about the executive order. I'm asking about what you told us 3 hours ago. You said definitively. You said it's a council of doubters and deniers, and I'm just asking the fundamental question. How can it be a council of doubters and deniers when it hasn't even been formed?
Well, it would be. Congressman, you're quibbling. It would be. It would be. It clearly would be.
Now we know you can foretell the future. That's
No,
awesome.
because there are
That's
several
awesome.
names that have been also leaked about the people who've been approached with respect to membership on this. And so, I can submit their names if you really want that, but I don't think it's necessary. For my judgment to be made, it was made on the basis of Mr. Happer's experience, his background, his lack of being a climatologist, and various other statements he's made publicly,
I'm not here to defend Mr. Happer. I'm just asking about a simple statement you made. You already know who's
I
on
stand
the
by
council.
my statement.
You already know. I know you stand by your statement.
The
It makes no
purpose of
sense.
this council.
You already know who's on the council, and you already know the conclusions they're going to reach, even though there's been no
No, I
council
don't know.
formed
I don't
and no
know.
executive order creating the council in the first place.
I don't know at this point in time who all the members are. I know enough members, and I know the purpose
aren't
of it, and
members.
I know with
There are not
clarity
members.
what it's doing. What is the secrecy about it? Why don't they ask some of the top people in the
There's
country?
no secrecy about it because it hasn't been formed.
Well, come on, you're playing games now, Mr.
No, I'm
Ranking
not. You're
Member.
playing games.
Yeah, it's really.
You're taking all kinds of latitude with an executive order that hasn't been issued.
No, I'm
I guess
hoping
I'm out
it
of
never
time.
will be issued, and I trust that because I and others have raised this issue about it, 58 national security concerned people, that this will never be issued because it doesn't deserve to be
Maybe you're right.
inappropriate.
Maybe you're right. I don't know.
Well, it could be that they've been warned off by this hearing and by other things.
I just think we've had 3 hours of talking about something that hasn't even been formed.
Ms. Wasserman Schultz. Ms. Wasserman Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.